Well, events across the region are being launched shortly to commemorate the anniversary of the Act to abolish the slave trade. Many believe a recognition of that shameful period of British history will help community relations today. Now, a project in Norfolk's been given £50,000 to tell the stories of people who benefited from the slave trade, as well as highlighting those who fought against it. And as Boni Sones reports, this region made a significant contribution towards abolition.
Wisbech in Cambridgeshire remembers Thomas Clarkson, who was born here. It was Clarkson who helped William Wilberforce MP abolish the slave trade 200 years ago.
This is the travelling chest that Clarkson used as a travelling museum to demonstrate to people the repressive nature of the trade. He acquired items which were used to contain the slaves.
Clarkson was also a pioneer of fair trade, wanting the West to use goods and materials that came from Africa rather than African labour.
Direct action, something that we're very familiar with today, but in those days, in the 18th century, something quite new.
Clarkson and Wilberforce met at St John's College in Cambridge. Clarkson entered an essay writing competition and won. Who has the right to enslave someone against their will?
Clarkson at the time knew nothing about the issue whatsoever. As he went through the process of his research, he was haunted by the material. I mean, it really got under his skin, he wasn't sleeping, etc. He researched it extremely thoroughly, and that's really what set him on the path towards a career of being an abolitionist.
Aluda Equiano was a black freed slave who lived in Cambridgeshire. He shocked the world with a book of how brutal his life had been.
Just the account of what was used in terms of the shackles and the chains and the beatings and the starvation at times, and just the accounts of women and children and men in very small confined areas was just horrible, just horrific. And there was such a noise and confusion among the people of the ship as I never heard before, to stop her and get the boat out to go after the slaves. However, 2 of the wretches were drowned, but they got the other, and afterwards flogged him unmercifully for thus attempting to prefer death to slavery.
Equiano's 4-year-old daughter, Anna Maria, is buried here in Chesterton, Cambridge. Locals paid for a plaque on the wall of the church. Campaigners still identify with her story.
Near this place lies interred Anna Maria Vassar, daughter of Gustavus Vassar the African. She died July 21st.
Her father, born of Afric's sunburnt race, torn from his native fields, our foul disgrace, through various toils at length to Britain came. We campaign under the slogan of justice for the world's poor. And this year we're particularly interested in slavery because of the bicentennial. It's very important that we take note of the fact that slavery was abolished in the British Empire 200 years ago. But slavery still goes on, and we must, all of us, take action to do something about human trafficking.
Students at St John's follow the campaigning tradition today with links to international activism.
What you're seeing back certainly in the 19th, 18th centuries is government-sponsored slavery. The slave trade at that point in time was diabolical, but that is not to say that there aren't equal abuses of human rights going on in our world today.
Clarkson spent most of his life at Playford Manor near Ipswich. He lived here, was buried here at Playford Church, and this obelisk commemorates him.
He was always writing, always working, 8 or 10 hours a day. And then in the last few years of his life, he became the father figure in the anti-slavery movement in the United States.
Over 40 members of the Clarkson family will be remembering their great ancestor on the bicentenary of the abolition of the slave trade.
There's no direct descendants, and I think the great joy for the Clarkson family is that they look forward to meeting one another because they've never met before.
The 1807 Act outlawed the use of British ships in the slave trade. It turned Britain from the dominant slave trading country into the one most opposed to it.
I feel that, after 200 years, there's still a lot to be done. And the more that people know about, what the contributions that black people made for their own freedom, for the black abolitionists like Equiano, I think we will be on an equal paving, but there still isn't that recognition.
Equiano and Clarkson remain in the shadows of history despite the brave role they played in the eventual abolition of slavery itself in 1833. Historians are now campaigning for these two campaigners to share the limelight with Wilberforce.
Still with me are our Northampton MPs, and welcome to Anne Mattin, the Director of the Norfolk and Norwich Racial Equality Council. Anne, if I could begin with you. Tell me a little bit about this project. What do you hope it's going to achieve?
Well, we really hope it's going to provide us with the information of the untold stories, the hidden heritage, and that's why the project is entitled that. And it's important that Norfolk knows its history and what was done in terms of working towards the abolition of slavery. That will put into context what we need to do today to challenge trafficking and racism and any types of discrimination and suffering.
And how will looking back at the past help improve community relations today?
I think Norfolk people may be unaware of the heritage within a race equality perspective. It's often been said, the not in Norfolk syndrome and myth. So we again are challenging that myth, and we're saying there's a great history in Norfolk on these issues, and we want to celebrate them, but we also want to deal with our problems today.